Paying attention is key, obviously. Okay, so now we're going to talk about 12-3 is samples and surveys. So we're talking about analyzing data and stuff. Well, it would make sense that we have to be able to figure out in statistics, like what are we analyzing data of? So that brings us to today. It's all definitions. There's no math involved. So, but you have to know the definitions for the test. So you've got them on your paper here. So understand how a population works. So a population is all the members of a data set. So a lot of people get caught up and they think population is only world population. Here are different examples of a population. You guys are A2. That could be a population. You're all the members of A2, except for we're missing a few people because people are absent. You guys see, population can mean many things. What's another example of a population? The population of Westlake High School would be all the students at Westlake High School. So if you have a population and you want to do some statistics on it, it might be unrealistic to think you could get to every member in the population. So instead, you would take what's called a sample. So a sample of the population can give you reliable statistics as long as you're really careful on how you select your sample and make sure it's kind of large enough. So for example, let's say you guys are the population, this class, A2. And it's a sample of that, so you're the population, a sample of that is these three gentlemen right here. I grab them. There's the population, I grab a smaller piece of the population as a sample. So another example of that, if the population was Westlake High School, this class would be a sample. Yes, okay. So do you guys see what's going on here? You do have to be careful though in selecting a sample because, for example, let's say I want to know how well does my A2 class like math? And let's say I said, well, I can't ask everybody in here, so I'm just going to grab a sample. So I grab you three gentlemen and ask you guys how well you like my class. So you answer it. And let's say you all say, well, we all love your class. And so then I say, yes, A2 loves my class. Well, I'm making some general conclusions on a very small sample, right? And then second of all, what's overrepresented? Males. So maybe they all have A's, and maybe I relate better with males, and so I have a better, like males are going to rate me higher, or whatever. Does that make sense? So you have to be careful on who you're selecting, because in this group, what was overrepresented? Males. Do you see why? And women were underrepresented. So it can create bias. Did you all hear that? Okay, it can create bias. So you have to be really careful to not create bias, but I mean, it is kind of hard. So if I have a population and I pick a sample, how do I pick the sample? There are different ways of getting a sample from a population. So the first one is a convenience sample. So read it. A convenience sample is when you take a population and you select any members of a population who are conveniently and readily available. So for example, if I said to you guys, okay, I want to know how well Westlake students like math in general, so the population would be Westlake students. Now I pick you guys to take the survey. Now that would be convenient, because isn't it convenient for me to ask my own students that? Well, yeah, it's very convenient. Now why could that give me bias? Because obviously you guys are all going to say you freaking love math, right? So yeah. So of course then if I go and say Westlake students love math, then that could have biased opinion because of how I selected the sample. Let me give you another example of a convenient sample. If I wanted to know how Saratoga Springs people, how many times a week they go to the grocery store, and I, as the person wanting to conduct the study, went and stood in front of Smith's and asked everybody that walked in the door, how many times a week do you shop? How many times a week do you shop? That's convenient. You're going to one spot, you're asking people, you know what I mean? You're just going to one spot. Why could that one create bias, that example I just gave? Because what? Yeah, they're at the grocery store. Aren't they more likely to say, well, I come 3 times a week if they're actually going? Some people, I'm underrepresenting the people who did not go to the grocery store that week. Okay, so next one is self-selected sample. If you have a population and the people that are selected for that small sample are the members of the population who volunteer and choose to give their information in the sample. So for example, if I said to you guys, hey, any of you willing to stay after school today and take a survey on how well you like A2? Do that. Only the people that actually choose to come in would do it, correct? Another example of this is when I worked for Marriott all through college many, many years. Marriott is huge on guest satisfaction, and we would send out, it's huge, like bonuses are based on that and everything. What? No, like, what did you thought I said salt? Oh, they call them that? Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I'm sure they're called different things, but yeah, just like scores of ratings of how they liked their stay. So they send out random surveys to people who stayed at the hotel asking how their stay was. Well, think the only people that write back the people that are going to answer are the people who choose to take the survey. Now think about why that could create bias. Here, does anyone think? Why could it create bias if people are self-selecting to come forward? Yes, good point. So that's a good point. A lot of times in the hotel industry, if you're happy with your stay, you're not going to take the time out of your day to get on and take the survey. But if you're mad because the blonde chick that was checking you in was a wildebeest, you're going to write in. You're going to be more inclined to write in because you want to complain. So do you guys see what I'm saying? Yeah, or it's really, really good because you feel so strongly to write in. Okay, awesome. Now let's go on to systematic sample. A systematic sample is you have to order the population in some way and then select from it at a regular interval. So you do have to order the population somehow and then select from it at regular intervals. It makes sense. Systematic sample. It's a system. So if I said to you guys, line up from tallest to shortest, and then I'm going to select every third person to see how well you like my class, that would be pretty good. I mean, that would be the least biased so far, right? Because if I ask you to stay after school to take it, aren't only the people who dare come forward going to stay or care enough? Yeah. So, if I did selecting from it at regular intervals, this one's pretty not biased. You just have to make sure your sample is big enough. A random sample is obviously the best, but it really is the hardest to truly do. So in a random sample, all the members of a population are equally likely to be chosen. So if I put all of your names in a bucket and drew from it, just pulled out a bunch of names, that would be truly random. It says right here, samples vary in how well they reflect a population because a sample has bias when a part of the population is overrepresented or underrepresented. So just keep that in mind. Okay, what type of sample is being used here? You have to be able to do this for the test. So, as you guys know, Westlake is splitting off to a new school here in Eagle Mountain, and that costs millions and millions and millions of dollars. So our property taxes as adults that we have to pay go up to help pay for that. Well, usually before they do that, a couple of years before they know that that's going to happen, they send out a survey to Saratoga Springs people. Now, it's not realistic to think that they're going to get a survey out to everybody. So they get a sample, they send it out and say, how do you feel about a $2 a month increase for a new school on your taxes? And they get the feedback of the public because they don't want outrage. They want to see how people are going to feel about it. Now, I guarantee a lot of people in this area said, yeah, if they knew anything about Westlake and how crowded we are, they were saying, yeah, you know what, it's got to happen at this point. Does that make sense, everybody? But that's just an example. So let's say that this newspaper wants to find out what percent of people are okay with their taxes being increased so that they can fix a local park. So what type of sampling method of a population? So the population is a city. What type of sampling method is being used right here? A newspaper article invites readers to express their opinions on the newspaper's website. Correct. Self-selected. The people have to choose to express their opinions on the website. They're not, you know what I mean? Only the people that choose to write in. Why would that have bias? Perfect. They are on the website. They're the ones reading about it. Good point. And they're the only ones that care extremely one way or the other. Okay, good point. Next one. A reporter interviews people living in the city's largest park. Convenience. That is a convenience sample. Why would that create bias if they're trying to see if people want to increase their taxes for a park renovation? They're at the park. Do you think people at a park are going to be more inclined to say, yeah, let's increase taxes? What about the people who don't go to the park? You're underrepresenting them. Okay, next one. Survey service calls every 50th from a local phone book. That one is systematic because the local phone book is the putting them in an order because it's ordered by last name, and then you're selecting from it at regular intervals, so 50th listing. So that one's the least biased, correct? As long as most people are registered in the phone book, and there's not even such thing as a phone book these days. Have any of you even used a phone book? Yeah. Okay, I was just curious. I haven't since like middle school. Okay, so you guys get the picture with that? You don't need more examples? Okay. All right, sounds good. Now, here's the thing. You have a population, like look at these people, I select a sample. Now I have to do something with the sample. So here are the different studies that you can do. You're trying to get information. Here are the different ways of getting information, the different studies. The first one is an observational study. So you measure an observational study. You measure or observe members of a sample. You're watching these people in such a way that they are not affected by the study. So you're not doing anything to them. You're letting them live their regular old lives. You're just watching and taking notes. You do not do anything to change it. Does that make sense? That makes sense. Observation. You're just observing. An example of this was like, a lot of times, like these zoos and stuff want to know how their animals will interact with other animals or whatever. So they put them in together, and then they just put cameras and they just watch. They're not in there too because their presence might affect it as well. So they're just watching, taking notes. So in a controlled experiment, you divide the sample. You would divide the sample in half. Boom. You impose a treatment on one group but not the other control group. Then you compare the effect of the treated group on the control group. I had a kid last year who did a controlled experiment, and I heard one on the radio this morning for a bunion removal on your foot. So I had a kid get his wisdom. He was part of a controlled experiment last year. He did this Gene Brown or whatever research where he got his wisdom teeth removed. So what was happening was this drug company that was testing out new drugs for pain medication said, if you will come forward, we will take out your wisdom teeth for free if you'll be part of our study. So all these people came forward. They split them in half. They took out all their wisdom teeth. And then half of them got a sugar pill and half of them got the pain medication. So then they all were told that they were given the true medication, or they know they're in an experiment though. So then when all of these people were coming forward that were actually on the pain medication going, I must have the dang sugar pill, they knew it wasn't working. Does that make sense? Because they thought they must not have the pain medication, and they did. They were all in pain. So they knew their pain medication did not work very well. Does that make sense, everybody? So you divide the sample into two groups, and you impose a treatment, and then compare the answers. Okay. A survey is when you ask every member of the sample a set of questions. Now, everybody gets confused with this. They think a survey is asking every member of the population. No, it's just asking everybody in the sample the same set of questions. We're doing the same thing to all of them. Does that make sense? Okay. So this is my last thing, and then I'm going to let you work for the last 20 minutes and see if you can finish up that one. So tell me which study method is being used here. A researcher randomly chooses two groups of 10 volunteers. Over a period of 8 weeks, one group eats ice cream before going to sleep, and the other does not. Volunteers wear monitoring devices while sleeping, and researchers record dream activity. So then these researchers, okay, yeah, so which one is it? We have your paper right in front of you. Controlled experiment. Half of them ate ice cream, half did not. They slept. The researchers then took notes. That's a controlled experiment. Now let's say these researchers went and said, now you do have to be careful when doing studies because should you make general conclusions based on what you found? So let's say this researcher went and said, you know what, ice cream tends to help people sleep. Looks like from our study, we can shout that from the tops of the roofs. They better be careful saying that. Now here's why. This could be a poorly designed study because there's only 10 volunteers. Should they be shouting to the world that ice cream helps you sleep better? No, that's too small of a sample. Students in a science class record the height of bean plants as they grow. What type of study? Observational. They don't do anything, they're just watching and making notes. They make general conclusions about bean plants. Probably not in general because these are students in a science class. Well, in Utah, are they going to grow different than in California? Than in Seattle? Yeah. So it just depends on what they're trying to research. So if they're looking for how do bean plants grow in Mr. Whatever's class, then it might be okay, but not probably for all bean plants. It says student council members ask every 10th student in the lunch line if they like cafeteria food. What type? So yes, possibly convenience, but where it says every 10th, that would be kind of systematic. But you're right, it's convenient for them to go to the cafeteria, so I can see your reasoning. But that's not what we're asking. I'm asking what type of study was being done. A survey, because everybody that they picked, they asked the same question. Now, should they make general conclusions that all Westlake students love school lunch? No, because aren't they underrepresenting all the people who did not stand and are not at school lunch, first of all, that went home for lunch? Or didn't go to lunch? Okay, sweet. So I would do right now 12-3 while that's fresh.